The At Your End Step podcast is brought to you by Comic Town. Check them out at www.comictown.net and search for Comic Town Gaming Center on Facebook. Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name is Morgan, and I am here with Dave.
Beep boop.
And Mike.
Boop beep.
We have another fun-filled episode for you this week. We're in the midst of spoiler season, which is amazing and awesome and kind of weird.
Didn't that just happen?
Yeah, not that long ago, actually. But you know what? We'll give you guys a sneak preview. Some of the cards that have been coming out are awesome. And then there's an argument to be made that this is a pretty, like one of the best blocks that they've ever done, which is a lofty statement, but we'll see what happens.
It's about time they had a set that had dragons in the name, and they actually, I don't know,
I put dragons in it. Oh man, it's pretty exciting.
That was actually in the article from. It was either Rosewater or someone this week. The first thing was designs, like things they needed to hit. The first one was
actually have dragons.
Actually have dragons in the dragon set. It's like you shouldn't have to write a bullet point about that.
Yeah, that should just be default.
I don't understand. Two times they've had the dragon set, and they've both had no dragons in them. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's weird.
But rectifying it now.
Correct. Lots of dragons. Many, many dragons. So we'll talk about spoilers. We have the mechanics that are going to be in it. So we usually, this is like our typical, cover the mechanics, talk about a few cards, stuff like that, since we're still like only, as of right now, 2 days in. And then Cube's coming back, so we'll touch a little bit on that. Then we have competitive. Obviously, there was a 5K over the weekend here in Columbus, so we want to talk about that. Also talk about the Modern Open, which was huge, as well as just touch on the Standard IQ and Legacy IQ that happened. And then we actually want to talk a little bit about Sealed. Not Seals.
Oh.
Sealed.
I like them both.
We have GP Cleveland coming up, and Mike wants to definitely kind of talk about the format a little bit. He, out of the three of us on this podcast, have participated in the most sealed decks as far as that's concerned. So
more than zero, then?
More than zero.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
That's my numbers.
Right, exactly. But it is important. I mean, there's obviously going to be a lot of people that are actually going to that. I know Mike is. I'm still on the fence about it, which is upsetting because now it's more expensive for me to go to it than it was like a couple weeks ago or something like that. Whatever. 60 instead of 50. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And then wrap up. We do have a couple of GPs actually happening this weekend, so we just want to talk about those. So let's get started and move into the community segment. So like I said, we are in the midst of spoiler season, and we have some sweet new mechanics to talk about from Dragons of Takir. So the first thing, it's not really a mechanic, but it is sort of the focus of the block. We're shifting from three-color cons to
what?
The three-color clans.
Cons, I've never heard of them before.
Yeah, I see what you're doing there.
Yeah, the plan of Takir was able to do what the United States had never done and eliminate the clans.
Well then, that's a good thing. No, that's fine. That's fine. They're bad people. We don't like them.
And move into two-color alignments based on the dragons that we saw.
Correct.
And
so they're clans and not cons. Cons. The joke that Dave is trying to make is cons is a forbidden word that you cannot say on the plane of
we'll whip him later.
Yeah. So we have the Ojutai clan, the Dramoka clan, etc. And these are two colors based on the dragons we saw. And you just gave me a weird face.
No, I give myself a weird face.
Oh, okay.
It's okay.
All right, that's good. It's probably better that you said nothing and just gave yourself a weird face. I assume that's what it was about.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. It's a good move. I like less editing. So
Lazy bum.
I think this is fairly interesting because we already have guilds now, and now we have some overlap happening here. I think with the mechanics that we'll talk about, it does diversify them still, so it still feels a little bit different.
No, I actually think they feel distinct. Yeah. I really agree with you on that.
Because I was super worried about that, it just being this just feels like Celestia.
Yeah, like Ojutai does not feel like Azorius. Like,
No. So I'm pretty happy with how everything kind of turned out. So for the Dramoka clan, I love their milkshakes, first of all.
They're delicious.
Secondly, Bolster. They Bolster coming back, which makes sense. I think Bolster wasn't really that explored, in all honesty, in Fate Reforged. I feel like there's a lot of interesting things that you can do with that mechanic. So I'm happy to see it come back, and hopefully they kind of maybe push it. Especially when, like, you know, one of the only Bolster cards you saw was the Abzan Advantage, seeing play in Standard. So hopefully they get a little bit more advantages as it goes forward.
The who?
Well, I mean, obviously the Dramoka clan advantage.
Dramoka advantage.
The Dramoka advantage.
It's just the same thing. Bolster 2.
And then for the Kolgan clan, we have Dash coming back, which also is, I think, another favorable mechanic. So it's good that comes back. I don't know if those cards always seem kind of interesting. Really good in limited to, you know, kind of bring that up again. In my opinion, the limited cards that have seen play. So
yeah, I think kind of the opposite of Bolster. I thought they did a lot of cool different things with it in Fate Reforged.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'd be interested to see like how they expand on that in this set. Obviously, it's a bigger set. So yeah, I don't even know what else they could do with Dash. But.
Right.
I definitely like, so we'll talk about this a bunch, but this idea that how the flavor of this entire block is insane. But like these abilities also do a great job of showing like the Mardu had raid because they were the clan that went around and raided the other clans. So they never become the raiders, you know, in this new version because they were dragon hunters and not so much raiders in Fate Reforged, and now they follow the dragon, so they embrace speed. But Dash makes a lot more sense flavorfully for a group of people that never actually became full on raiders.
Right.
The same goes for things like Bolster, whereas Outlast, you're trying to Outlast implies you're trying to defeat other things by outlasting them, whereas Bolster says like we're already pretty strong, we're just going to keep bolstering the defense. Like so, I like how all these mechanics sort of. Like even flavorfully fit that that reforged Takir.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean,
I feel good about that.
Yeah.
Not only that, but
bravo.
Not only that, but they just all play well together, which they clearly, when they were designing this block, were trying to do.
Oh yeah,
I thought they did a really good job in fitting all these mechanics together.
Yeah, and we still have more mechanics, guys. We're almost to the best one, which I'm about to talk about. The Jeskai, they're no longer prolific for prowess. Is that close enough? So they no longer have prowess, but what they do have is they're no longer the Jeskai. They're the Ojutai clan, and they have Rebound, which is awesome to see come back, in my opinion. I never got to play in, was it Rise of Eldrazi was where Rebound showed up?
Yes.
So I never got to play during then. I came in after that. So being able to like play with some Rebound cards is pretty sweet. I'm excited to see what they do. We've already discussed like what cards could come back, and like Distortion Strike would be pretty sweet.
I think Stagger Shock would be gross.
But see, like
it can't be Stagger Shock.
It can't be Stagger Shock because there's no red.
There will be red. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
sorry.
Right. Well, we won't see Stagger Shock in the set. Sorry, guys.
But yeah, Distortion Strike's up there, which could be good, but I think it could be really gross in Standard. In all honesty, like just being able to like have a bunch of prowess guys just be like, oh yeah, it's just a blockable. Don't even worry about it. Or like in Heroic. Yeah, that seems not the greatest, but okay. But yeah, it is kind of interesting to think about how Rebound might play with Theros cards that have Heroic. I mean, being able to get the double trigger from a spell is pretty awesome. So,
I mean, how it plays with prowess.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mentioned this like somebody who, we'll talk about like the limited cards that were revealed, but like, oh, that seems really expensive. It was like one of the ideas about a card, and it was like, well, I mean, in limited, if you've got prowess creatures from Fate Reforged, which the prowess creatures in Fate Reforged actually for limited are really impressive. The 2/3 flyer and the 2/2 vigilance guy. So like now your spells guarantee 2 triggers. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now let's look at Standard, where you have like Seeker of the Way seeing constant play and Monastery Mentor. Like being able to cast a spell and know that without spending any more mana, you're also going to get another trigger the next turn is actually really, really good.
Yeah.
Also plays really well with, I don't know, Jeskai Ascendancy.
Gross. I don't want that card to get any better. Gosh. So the other mechanic that we have that is new is for the former Sultai clan, now the Silumgar group, if you will.
He bought friends.
Yeah, he certainly did buy friends. We have Exploit, and Exploit basically reads when this... So far it's just been creatures, right?
Yes.
Okay, so when this creature enters the battlefield, sacrifice a creature, and then if you did, you get an effect. It's fairly interesting. Important to note that you can sacrifice the creature you're putting into the battlefield. So it's kind of a way to guarantee that you always can get this effect. But it's obviously better when you get to keep the creature around if it's better. So you don't feel like you're just kind of losing, basically. But they kind of give creatures a spell like a sorcery like effect at the very least.
I also like how they actually used, pardon me, the term exploited. Like if you exploited a creature, like from like a flavor perspective, you're just like, you gotta feel bad. Like unless you're just a bad person, you're just like, man, I exploited that goblin token. Like I told him it was gonna live for me, and then I just said nah.
I just want to, since this is a new mechanic, it's best to read it from a card. So the example they put here in the rules article is Silumgar's Butcher, which is 4 and a black for a 3/3 with exploit, and it says when this creature enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a creature. And it's a matrix, so you don't always have to do it. And it says when Silumgar's Butcher exploits a creature, target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. Also, fun fact, it's a zombie djinn, which I just enjoyed for no reason.
Yeah, the picture's pretty sweet too. He has like a spear going through.
I wish you were dead. Yeah. Oh, well, that's unfortunate.
Oh, man.
Zombie djinn.
And then we have a new mechanic for the former Tamir clan, the Atarka clan.
Atarka clan, yes.
Yeah. It is formidable. And then the card they give for this is Stampeding Elk Herd. It's 3 green for a 5/5. It says formidable. Whenever Stampeding Elk Herd attacks, if creatures you control have a total power of 8 or greater, creatures you control gain trample until end of turn. So basically it checks to see if you have a total power of 8 or greater, and if you do, then it turns on. So it's basically like... what was their former mechanic?
The mechanic. It was ferocious.
Ferocious. So it's ferocious kind of on crack.
This actually feels like devotion for power.
Power, yeah.
A little bit. Yeah,
this is interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to evaluate this one yet. Well, that's
not at all.
Cards.
It relies on board presence, which is really awkward, and it feels kind of bad, but we already also have a deck in current standard which is built on board presence with devotion, so it feels like these mechanics currently go hand in hand a lot of the time, in my opinion, at least for green cards. But I mean, it's going to be green-red. We have green-red devotion that already exists. I don't see why this wouldn't already slot in there.
You do have cards that with high power. Ashcloud Phoenix comes to mind as just a card that...
even like low drops like a Teamer Charger with it having like 3 power and it would only be technically 2 mana. Like, I mean, those cards kind of like go together a little bit better, and especially for like a limited format. I guess you won't have Teamer Charger in that format, but there are other cards in Fate Reforged now that you kind of look at it a different light with this mechanic. So I think that's pretty interesting in all honesty.
Yeah, absolutely. This one seems like it's more of a limited mechanic, of the brand new mechanics that we have between this and Exploit.
Yeah.
But maybe there's something that they'll put out there that's worth stretching for to play.
Right.
And constructed. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I can see this feeling like when more like we got a pretty interesting mythic that we'll talk about. They use the mechanic in an interesting way.
Yeah.
But like the way it's presented on the Elk Herd, it sort of seems like one of those like I don't know, like, oh, you've got a big creature that like, yo, look, I almost hit formidable by myself, and you get this trigger, and it's like, well, I'm not going to play the 7-drop in my standard deck, so cool.
Another mechanic that we have, and this is the last mechanic for the set, is the much maligned, in my opinion. I can't believe they actually named it this. Megamorph.
Megamorph.
Basically, Megamorph is morph. You know, you can play this creature face down for its Megamorph cost, and for 3. You can play it for morph cost of 3, and then you can pay its Megamorph cost to unmorph it, and then when you do that, you put a 1/1 counter on it as well, and that's all that it is. It's basically just cool morph.
But bigger. Yeah, cool morph, bro.
When you unmorph your creature, it gets sunglasses, so that's the +1/+1 counter.
Even at night?
Yeah, it just says deal with it on it.
Yes.
Yep. So, I mean, this seems like the laziest thing in the block, I would have to say. Like, Manifest seemed interesting, but this is just like, oh, it's just morph, but it's just like better because of the dragons and stuff.
So I got this idea. It's like Jaws, but a bigger shark. This big Jaws.
It's big Jaws.
That's a Family Guy gag. That's exactly what this feels like, though. It's like,
does.
It's like morph. You get big morph.
I don't disagree with you. It's just as like, oh, okay, that's.
See, I don't feel that it's lazy, actually. Like, yeah, it's somewhat disappointing just because it's so, it's basically just morph slightly better.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like we're in the alternate reality Takir, so it's supposed to be the same as morph, only slightly different.
Right.
Like flavor-wise.
I mean, it makes sense that the morph magic that they had would be more powerful since the dragons still exist. So I guess that it would they'd have to up their game or what have you.
Right.
And it's fine, but it's not like
it's not exciting.
No, it's just like, oh, okay, cool.
It's fine.
Yeah. So I mean that's where we're at with our mechanics for the set. Overall, I think the ones that come back are welcomed, and the ones that are new are pretty sweet. I think getting Rebound is just awesome. I've just heard a lot of good things about that mechanic. So we'll see what happens. Let's actually take a look at some of the cards that we want to talk about. We'll start at the beginning. I guess the first card that was technically spoiled was the Dragon Reaper card, which is sort of interesting. I'm trying to pull it up here.
How we going in order? I mean, I don't think that necessarily means anything.
I do want to talk about this card.
That's fine, but I think maybe we should talk about cycles that we see.
Sure.
But go ahead.
So this was like the first one that was spoiled. It was the release promo. The only reason I want to bring this up is because it it kills all of Hornet Queen, but it's 5 BB for a dragon creature with flying, and then when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, and there are 5 or more creatures on the battlefield, destroy all other creatures. And I just wanted to say it kills Hornet Queen.
It's a 5/6.
Oh, it's a 5/6. Yeah.
Yep.
For 7, it's not very good, but kills Hornet Queen. If you have problems with that card still. So yeah, let's go ahead and look at potential cycles that we are going to be having, or at least definite cycles that we know of.
Well, we can talk potential cycles if we want to start with CDC.
Yeah, potential cycles is Sidisi. So, and like we've seen,
a little hot over here.
We've seen key art for Zurgo as well in Uncharted Realms.
Yes, the bell ringer.
The bell ringer. He can ring
the
your
bell boy.
I just love the little derisive joke in the Uncharted Realms where it's like, oh, your sword isn't blunted from killing things, it's from smashing a bell. Oh.
You used to be cool where I came from. But you got lame. So, Sidisi, Undead Vizier. Sidisi didn't have such a good transit in time. Went a little spoiled. Went a little bad. Yeah, dead. D-E-D, dead. Yeah, exactly. She is now a 4/6 Death Toucher for 3 black, and she has Exploit. So if you do exploit a creature when she enters the battlefield, you can Demonic Tutor. You can look for a card and put it in your hand, which is good.
Correct.
And we were talking about this before the cast. Just a 4/6 body with Death Touch is good. The guys brought up the point that kills Rhino which is fine. Which is
it just
what you
beats
wanna
Rhino
do.
in combat.
Yeah, beats it.
Which your
to
5-drop
death.
kind of has to do in this format.
100%. Yeah.
Like most of the 5-drops go over Rhino right now, but like if you're gonna play a 5-drop that just sits on the ground, it's got to be able to beat Rhino.
And like you guys also brought up the point that people just play Satyr Wayfinder. Like that's a pretty good creature to exploit. feels like it. He don't mind. It's all right. He didn't mean nothing to no one.
Yep. This card also plays well with the former CDC version.
Yeah. So that's also the weird thing is like you can play both and they don't see each other. I guess it's kind of weird.
Man, who's that hot snake? I wish I was still alive.
The other potential cycle. Obviously, we only have single cards, but it would only make sense if they have. Cycles are the dragons from Fate Reforged are coming back. They're a little older, a little wiser,
a little elderly.
Some might say elderly. So the first one we have is Dragon Lord Silumgar, and he is 4 black, blue, for a 3/5. So old age. He's a little soft. A little doughy.
He's still sitting on that same throne. He's still sitting on Tassiker's throne. He's like, yeah, cool.
He's a legendary creature, Elder Dragon, which is pretty awesome to see on a card again.
Yeah, I mean, we have an Elder Dragon since Legends.
Correct.
And Nicol Bolas, interestingly,
is an Elder Dragon.
Yeah.
Technically, was once the only living one, right?
Yeah, I don't remember. That storyline's really convoluted.
Yeah,
he killed some number of them.
Yeah.
But Chromium and Vea Victus Asmati.
I mean, as far as I know, I barely know anything about the older sets and stuff like that. But I just know that he killed a lot of them.
Right,
he was like the only one.
Palladium Morse. What's the 5th one? Help me, Dave.
I don't know.
No.
Did you say Chromium?
I said Chromium, Vea Victus Asmati, Palladium Morse, Nicol Bolas, and.
What's his face?
I'm finding this.
Anyway, he's a flying death toucher. So again, a little soft. He lost hexproof. He's let his guard down, and then when he enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature or planeswalker for as long as you control Dragon Lord Silumgar. So he gets a friend when he comes to the battlefield. He's tired of being sad fat dragon with no friends. He is taking your friend, and
he's like, you're my friend now.
You're my friend now. I made it so. But yeah, that's a fairly powerful effect. It reminds me of a lot of Zealous Conscripts. I have many memories of taking people's planeswalkers and ultimating them. It was good.
Yeah, that's definitely a line that is possible with this card.
Arcades Sabbath.
That's what it was. Can't believe you forgot the Sabbath.
No, I think if you're gonna look at an older card that this is closest to, I would want to say Sower of Temptation.
Sower of
I guess.
Temptation.
It's obviously it's obviously bigger, a little bit more durable. Obviously, having it cost 2 more is kind of a big deal as well. As well as it being 2 colors. But this card is pretty sweet, and this makes me very interested to see what the other dragons.
Yeah, hopefully
like.
We get 4 other Elder Dragons, assumedly.
I'm pretty sure.
I mean, the art packaging definitely shows a Tarka.
Yeah,
you can see
Kolaghan has already had key art spoiled.
Right.
I guess the only one we technically haven't seen is Ojutai.
Well, we know he's around.
Yeah, it's true.
So
I guess we're going to get a full set of these Elder Dragons, which is pretty awesome. And I think like a lot of people were kind of upset seeing this, like for no reason apparently. I don't get it. Like he was trying to make the point that EDH isn't even called EDH anymore, and if you don't know, it stands for Elder Dragon Highlander. So like it's called Commander. Like people who remember the former Elder Dragons don't care, or don't care about them, and neither do new players because they don't know about the previous ones. And it's like I don't know. I feel like if I haven't invested that many years in the game, but at least I know what they are. Like,
I think it's a cool little flavor callback.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
on Dominaria, you had these dragons that lasted so long, they became the Elder Dragons, and I don't know, some of them were so intelligent that they had plans for other things and became planeswalkers. Oh wait, Nicol Bolas, who's still very relevant.
Yeah.
To see that essentially they could fishbowl their own Elder Dragons. Like, what if they had not died? And that also implies that Ugin would have been an Elder Dragon as well, which creates that symmetry between Ugin and Nicol Bolas they've been going for. Like,
Right.
Like, I don't know why anybody would get upset because it says Elder on it. It absolutely makes sense, and this is the right kind of flavor nod for me. Like, hey, instead of going all out like Future Sight on it or something like this, but like, hey, remember we had Elder Dragons before? Well, if you have a dragon that ages 1,000 years, guess what? It also becomes an Elder Dragon.
Yeah.
We did it.
I think it's pretty sweet. I'm excited to see what the rest of them do because they seem fairly powerful and they're mythic at this point in time. So obviously they got a little bump up from their former rare status. Hopefully a Takir will be better. The most, I think, exciting cycle that we've seen so far, though, is a new command cycle. Oh, God. I see, again, never played Lurwyn. Have no idea.
You're talking about like Ray of Command?
No.
Oh,
not those.
Different command.
So, like, cryptic commands.
Oh, those are better.
Austere command, less good. Incendiary command was the red one? Mm-hmm. I barely even know these.
Profane command.
Profane
that thing
command.
was sweet.
Shh. Don't be profane on this podcast. I'll tell you that much.
Not anymore.
That's a command.
I command it so. So we have new commands based around the Dragon Lords. So the first one that was spoiled is Ojutai's command, and it is 2 white blue. So 4 mana for an instant, and it says choose 2. Return target creature card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. You gain 4 life. Counter target creature spell or draw a card. So those are separate effects. I know I kind of said the first two a little bit run-on, but gain 4 life is a separate effect.
I mean, you could put them together.
You could.
That could be what it does.
I don't know if that's the best mode for that.
That's probably the worst.
It's probably
combination.
counter target creature spell draw card is probably where you want to be at a lot of times.
Yeah.
I would think.
Yeah.
But sometimes gaining 4 life and drawing a card ain't bad against certain decks. I think like this. So it's technically easier to cast than Cryptic Command, right?
Technically,
Yes.
it's much easier to cast.
Yeah. I think it feels like for what you were able to do, it feels fairly powered. I like pretty balanced.
I see a lot of people, and honestly, I'm looking at Mythic Spoiler right now. I'm seeing like a bunch of comments about like, oh, too bad they couldn't make it as as good as Cryptic Command. Like, well, first off, Cryptic Command is insane. Like, it would dominate Standard to a degree where it would be disgusting. But secondly, like, why would you want just like a straight? I mean, like, I get wanting Cryptic Command as a reprint, but I'm saying like, if they're gonna get close to it, like, I feel like this fits a different kind of deck. Like, I immediately, like, I'm sitting here, like, was looking at this card, and I was thinking of, like, oh, man, like, you could play this in decks that, like, are a little bit transformative. Like, I told Morgan, I'm like, man, this card looks insane with Jeskai Sage. Like, play Jeskai Sage, and then block your thing to draw a card, and then play this and counter your next guy, get back Jeskai Sage, and just, like do, like, roll in the value. But
I guess.
I mean, I think people want to look at some of these cards, and I think we've had this discussion before, Dave, where people just want cards to be straightforwardly good. And this card is good, but you might actually have to, like Cryptic Command, you could just build a control deck and say, oh man, Cryptic Command is great here, let's put it in here. But now you've got to, like, build your deck around this a little bit to make it the best. So I like this a lot.
Yeah. I'm pretty excited by the prospect of the commands. This one, I'm not really sure how to evaluate it, and we'll have to see, after the full set's spoiled, to see if it can do anything.
Yeah.
It obviously doesn't have the same kind of utility that Cryptic Command would have, like being able to, can't tell you how many times I've tapped my opponent's team to draw a card to, like, stay alive and then, drew out of it. Or just being able to bounce, like, any permanent can get you out a lot of things. And that basically is, makes it so that it's always useful. This one, I mean, if you're just cycling it, it's like, okay, gain 4, draw a card, I guess. I don't know. But we'll see how, like, the format shapes up. It could be good.
I mean, I feel like it dismisses the wrong card because what's that counter creature?
It's like exclude.
Yeah, I feel like
+1 mana.
I mean, I feel like that's still okay in this format. Like, I mean, like, Essence Scatter is something we begged for. Granted, this isn't Essence Scatter, but I think if you can build a deck so that you can even use the other like the creature utility a little bit, and I'm not sure how you would do that.
Yeah.
I saw some people upset that it doesn't say like power 2 or less, and I'm like, I don't want Ojutai's command bring back Hornet Queens. Like, counter your creature, bring back Hornet Queens.
Yeah, I mean, oddly, like, one of the better creatures I could see, like, being able to bring back is, was the Satyr Wayfinder. Like, that feels like something pretty gross to do, but I don't know what that deck would even humanly look like.
I'm going to throw another card out here that
Isn't Jeskai Sage hopefully?
Well, Jeskai Sage is awesome, but Soulfire Grandmaster.
Yeah.
Because the issue with that card is it's not a great 2-drop. It dies to everything. But now if that's your 2-drop, but then later you're going to counter the guys and get it back. Like getting it back for free in the late game without having to do a lot of
finagling.
You know what I mean? All of a sudden, especially in a control shell, actually might represent an issue, or it's just like, oh, well, you countered my guy and you got your guy back for free, so I'm already down card advantage. And now if you have a dissolve or something in hand, you might have infinite dissolves. So that's upsetting. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that's amazing, but definitely it's interesting.
It's something to consider, 100%. And who knows what else we'll get from this set? So,
a blue-black command.
How much do you want to bet that says counter target?
Non-creature spell?
It better not say non-creature. That's so broad. I could see it saying instant or sorcery spell, but
I mean, if it says that, if it doesn't have draw a card on it, then it's going to be a lot worse.
It might have some sort of filtering or
draw
something
2,
like that.
discard 1, something like Sultai Charm. I mean, it would feel a lot like Sultai Charm.
Yeah, it would feel like too much. Who knows? That's pure conjecture.
We'll know in a couple weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Are there any individual cards that we...
Well, you technically have a rare gold cycle, which is your intro pack rares for dragons.
Oh, yeah.
None of them are very good.
No, they're all garbagey.
And then it looks like we have a monocolored cycle of rare dragons as well. We have 2 of them revealed so far. The white one is okay.
The Regents?
Yes, the Regents, thank you. But the red one, which is, it's still in... it's a Thunderbreak Regent. That card has me super excited.
Yeah, so Thunderbreak Regent is 2 red for a dragon. Has flying, of course. And then whenever a dragon you control becomes a target of a spell or ability your opponent controls, the Regent deals 3 damage to that player.
It's also a 4/4.
Yeah, I was going to say you missed the most important part.
Yeah, it's a 4/4. I mean, I was reading it, as it goes down. So yeah, it's a 4/4. Dragons, saying dragon on it is pretty cool because Stormwrath Dragon's a pretty nifty card, and people like to target that with. So I gotta edit that out. I always do this to myself, and I don't know why. Anyway, so yeah, that's pretty nifty.
I think this card's there's pieces here, and that's why I love spoilers, because you can start putting puzzles together. But you have cards like this. I think the Dragon Tempest is probably a little underpowered to be played, which is a red enchantment that gives haste to your flyers, but also triggers the Scourge of Valkis ability, where it deals damage equals the number of dragons you control when you play a dragon. And you have that, and you have Thunderbreak Regent, you have Stormwrath Dragon. I'm like, man, just show me a 3-drop. Give me a 3-drop playable dragon, and I'm all in. I'm going to put all the chips right in the middle, and we're just going to go to town.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this card too. I like how aggressively costed it is. I think 4/4 flyer for 4 is pretty good already, and being able to always get value, even if it dies immediately to a downfall, you get to bolt them, which isn't the best thing in the world, but at least you're getting something out of it. It's not just dying for no value.
Right.
It also stacks.
Yeah.
You have multiple of these things out, and it's like, oh well, I guess I got a Hero's Downfall of the Dragon. But take 6.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, this card is super sweet. It'll be interesting to see how it slots into decks. I think. I think we were talking earlier. Like, Ashcloud Phoenix is a card that is seeing play right now in red-white decks or other, red-green decks. It'll be interesting to see if those decks want to play both of those cards or if it's one versus the other. I think it all just probably depends on how the format shapes up as to which one is better at the time. But at least you have those options.
Yeah, and it's nice to have options.
We have 2 4-mana, 4-power fires in the format at the same time.
They're both red too.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Oh, okay, that's fine. I don't know, a card that I kind of like that was spoiled yesterday was the Stratus Dancer. I'm a big fan of this card. I don't know how relevant it'll actually be in Standard, but I don't know. It's 1 and a blue for a flying 2/1, and it has Megamorph. And then if you ever turn it face up, you can counter target instant or sorcery spell. So it feels like it has some sort of utility.
It's a lot of mana, but
yeah,
it's definitely powerful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a cool use of the morph mechanic. Like,
Yeah.
it's cool to see them still find a couple small spaces where they can sort of sneak something in that's a little bit different.
Yeah, I think for morphs to kind of break through and construct it, it needs to be decent enough on its own to play it face up. I mean, 2/1 flyer for 2 isn't the greatest thing ever, but it's not the worst.
I actually think that like there isn't necessarily like a bunch of great 2-drops in the format currently,
Right.
And that kind of makes this card a little bit better. Is that our 2-drops are actually not very relevant, and this guy can be relevant in the late game, which is kind of nice as well. So, another card that is pretty sweet is Radiant Purge. And this is like proof that like efficient removal is slowly getting pushed out of the format almost. It's 1 and 08 for
Efficient, like unconditional removal.
yeah. It's 1 and a white for an instant. It's exile target multicolored creature or multicolored enchantment. This says to me exile target Jeskai Ascendancy or Siege Rhino. Yeah. Which I'm okay with. Now, it being like sharing same space with Glare of Heresy kind of is a little bit weird, but I don't know. They both have their positives and negatives.
I was gonna say, Glare of Heresy also kills those things.
Yeah.
It'd be at sorcery speed, but
Exactly.
yeah, I'm not as high on this card as you guys are, and the reason why
I'm not that high on this card.
I think
okay.
it's.
I thought you were.
Don't you let me in with him? I said nothing about this card.
I mean, I like this card just for the sheer fact that it's instant speed and it has multiple targets. It's flexible, and I appreciate that. It's sideboard card.
flexible.
Yeah.
It's not flexible at all.
What are you talking about?
What?
See,
It has very defined parameters. By definition, it's not flexible.
But I mean, it has multiple targets that can hit.
So does Doomblade. Does that mean it's flexible?
You know what I mean?
And I mean, it said Doomblade's more flexible than this is. No, I actually don't know what you mean. I think it's actually not flexible.
I mean, I'm saying that it is a sideboard slot that can cover you in different matchups. Like,
I mean, but, so you're saying like you'd board it in against Jeskai Ascendancy?
yeah.
Okay.
If it was my only enchantment removal, that's the only enchantment that's irrelevant for that deck.
Wouldn't Erase be just better then? Because Erase is going to hit more. Like, so Erase is going to hit Whip. But
then I have to.
I'll side with Morgan on this because like this could kill like Silumgar or something. The new one.
Okay, sure, but I mean, if we're talking that way though, like if we're actually going to try and slot it in right now, like if I'm playing Erase in my sideboard right now in this format, right? Erase can kill Jeskai Ascendancy, so maybe I could substitute my Erase then for Radiant Purges, except for now I can't hit Outpost Siege or Whip of Erebos.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So I think just like Glare of Heresy, just like even Erase itself, it will be a numbers game, and inherently...
Yeah, I'm not saying that this is strictly better than those cards. I'm just saying it deserves discussion in sideboards.
I don't disagree with that. I'm just arguing with you about it being flexible.
Okay, that's fine. I think that it is. I think that it is more flexible.
As a piece of cardboard, it certainly is.
I'm saying that its targeting parameters are narrow, yes, but it being able to target both creatures as well as enchantments is what I'm talking about.
Erase
being
can do
flexible.
that too, though.
In this current format, yes.
I'm just being a jerk. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Whatever. It's inefficient.
Inefficient. Correct.
It is an efficient conditional, unconditional removal. It deserves to be discussed, in my opinion.
We discussed it.
It's a
Moving on.
card. Yeah.
It is a card.
I will not be happy to open it ever.
Think about all of the rare dragons that you're going to open that you're not going to be excited about. That's actually been a point of discussion with a lot of the pros. I've seen plenty of tweets that are like, "Stop printing dragons."
Yeah, how is that a thing? Like, did they not expect there to be like a million dragons?
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, it's going to happen. Like, what do you want from Dragons of Takir?
I mean, again, based on the dragon sets they're familiar with, they weren't expecting much.
Any dragons, yeah, correct.
Yeah, I think the argument was more of like, how is this going to impact limited? Like, you're just going to have all these like, yeah, they're not all going to be like, amazing, insane bombs, but they're all like pretty big, and you have to deal with them.
Yeah, I mean, well, so it's interesting because Fate Reforged, that limited format, a lot of the times devolved into open a rare, draft for your rare.
Yeah, like all the
play a rare and win, or don't play a rare and lose. While this format hopefully won't be that way, because maybe we'll have better commons and uncommons, so we get away from that sort of format. I was listening to Limited Resources on the way up there, and they were kind of discussing, like, they were doing the post-mortem on Fate Reforged, and this is kind of where their discussion had been on it being what's called a Prince format rather than a Pauper format. So I hope that, like, that just doesn't happen where, you know, we have a bunch of, like, you know, powerful threats that are up at the top of the curve and we have no way of casting them or anything like that. So, I'm sorry I burped to the mic.
You're a slob tonight.
I know, it's terrible. I apologize.
Clean it up, Morgan.
Never. Never. I like the look of the set. Like I said, it's awesome to like you know, wake up in the morning at, well, not technically. I don't wake up at 11 Eastern time, 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Why not?
I wake up in the morning and all I started thinking was the Saved by the Bell theme song. Don't read all my homework last night.
But it's exciting to it's nice being excited to look at spoilers where we haven't necessarily had that with, like, coming from Journey into Nyx and Board of the Gods, and, like, not being as excited to look at those spoilers as these. So
I'm really excited to see some. It's going to sound weird, but, like, the rare's already looking sweet, but I'm really excited to see some commons out of this set.
Well, I mean, like, you have Battle Box, so of course.
Well,
I'm always interested in the commons and uncommons.
but I feel like for the format as well, though. I feel like there's so many decks that are based around powerful cards right now that I want to see if they're gonna, you know, are we going to get some kind of removal that, you know, knocks Abzan down maybe a peg? Are we going to see, and maybe we won't, and that's fine, but I just, that's where they have the chance to sort of, you know, put something sort of small, but like a Valorous Stance, like, out of Fate Reforged, sort of something that was like sort of like innocuous, but also like really has allowed some decks to carve out some space in a format. So
yeah, we'll see. We'll see if there's anything format warping. I think the commands, like, depending on what they do with that, I think Ojutai command was a good one to kind of lead with, because I feel that it shows a more balanced approach to these types of cards. So I don't expect, like, any of the ones that come out to be like, oh, well, that's just the most broken one, like, you know, Cryptic Command was. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with that cycle and, you know, kind of go from there. It and the dragons, although the other dragons, I think, are probably going to be the two most interesting cycles to come out.
right.
Something to touch on before we go to competitive is that the Legacy Cube is going to be back from March 18th to April 1st, and there's a lot of people not liking the modifications they did to it. I haven't looked at the list, but yeah, they changed some cards that people are like, why would you do that?
It's pretty bad.
Why would you mess with a special sauce?
I mean, like,
That way they can bring back Cube Classic.
Oh gosh, Cube remastered.
yeah. I mean, I'm always going to play Cube, you know, when it comes back on Magic Online. But yeah, Legacy Cube was okay last time. It wasn't perfect, but it was a little bit better. I feel like than, you know, when they had all the Storm cards and everything in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, I don't know. So this article came out on Monday. And Randy Buehler, he's been the one who's been kind of managing the Legacy Cube. And so the first couple of things he talked about was that they were cutting Umezawa's Jite and Grim Monolith, basically for power reasons. This cube doesn't have any signets or really any cheap artifact mana, nor does it have any of the swords from Mirrodin or what was the Scars of Mirrodin block.
Yeah.
So those all got cut. So it's like, okay, well, that makes sense. These cards are obviously too powerful for this. Like, for the power level of this cube, these are way too good. I was fine with that. And then it kind of just went off the deep end. It's just like, well, we felt like Mono Red was too good, so we're going to cut Fire Blast and Sulfuric Vortex. Don't know how I feel about that.
Searing Blaze, Searing Blood.
Yeah, Searing Blaze, Searing Blood out. Black got, like, completely redone. And
You have some vampires now?
yeah, there's some really questionable vampires in this.
Blood Crazed Neonate is in here now? This seems terrible.
Yeah, I don't want to draft this. No one wants to draft this.
No.
Who wants to be like, oh, I'm
They
going to
also
make...
took out the Show and Tell deck, like, entirely. No, like, they cut Show and Tell and Eureka.
Yeah, I'm not I'm okay with that. That's
that
fine.
that one doesn't make you so upset.
But it just seems like they just took a couple decks and just so they said they got rid of Graveyard Neighborlords too. So the Legacy Cube is now Creature Combat. Have fun.
Yeah, that doesn't seem nearly as fun. Oh man, it hurts to see Fire Blast just taken out.
Well, even just like some of the black cards, like Lifebane Zombie. That's one of the best black cards that they've printed in recent sets for Cube. Like that card is just awesome. Like you main deck that every time. That's no longer in there. Even something even more recent than that, Bloodsoaked Champion. I don't even feel like that really got a fair shake.
Yeah,
I mean it's not the best thing ever, but like
I do like to see attrition go back in though.
yeah.
Maybe,
Well, yeah.
maybe Bloodsoaked Champion could be.
It's not like it's 1-for-1 though. You know what I mean? It's like we have Bloodlord of Vazgoth coming in, Captivating Vampire. I don't know. Anyway, I'm not really excited about this. I think, like I said, what was it last time we were talking about streaming? I may try streaming, a draft or two, but
it's so sad.
I don't know. Yeah, Rakdos Cackler's gone too.
And they put Pack Rat in.
Yeah.
Yay! That was a fun draft.
Man, that was like my favorite thing to play. No.
I'm actually surprised that wasn't in there before. That card is pretty insane.
It is insane, but it's also like draft warping, like just like it was format warping, where it's like now all I'm going to do is this. I mean, I guess the removal in this cube is okay.
Yeah, in Cube it's not as busted as it was in Standard, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I've played it in Big Boy Cube a couple times. It's still pretty good.
It's pretty good. But anyway,
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what they talk about Shrine of Burning Rage too, man.
that's out. Yep. Yeah,
That's how I feel about this. Burning with rage.
What kind of fun do they want you to have? None? Like absolute zero?
Really clean family fun.
I will agree that red oftentimes gets like. So if you have a cube that is supposed to be balanced between colors, so say you have each color has the same number of cards in it, red oftentimes, like mono red decks, oftentimes get extra cards because you have cards like Shrine of Burning Rage, which some people put under the artifact section, which is really just a mono red card. Like Rakdos Cackler, that's really just a red 1-drop. Which also, I said earlier, Rakdos Cackler got cut out as well.
Right.
So I kind of get it that they're trying to balance it and maybe have less cards for mono red aggro, but I don't know. I feel like there's got to be a better way to do it than that. Like if you just cut all the good cards, I don't know.
All right.
Anyway, we don't have to talk about this anymore.
Yeah, other than it's kind of sad and it probably won't be as cool, so that's unfortunate. Well, moving on, let's go ahead and talk about competitive. So over the weekend, Dave and I attended the TCG Player 5K in Columbus, down at the convention center, and it was a fairly interesting event. I didn't stay as long as I wanted to, but we both decided to play red-white, a la Nathan Holiday, his article on Channel Fireball. He posted an updated list with some sideboarding plans, basically, which is fairly helpful when going into these big tournaments.
They were a little loose, but
they were certainly loose. But I mean, like
they were more of a guideline than a rule.
Yeah, it helps at least having that.
Yes.
As far as that goes. And we had, I'm on the fence between Red, White, and Jeskai. I wasn't sure how well Jeskai was actually going to be able to perform in the actual tournament. Red, White does obviously seem like the more consistent deck. Based on paper, my results did vary between the two lists, but Dave, what was your experience? Mine's like I left, but I was in still contention for like potential prize, but I wanted to go do something else. Basically, the deck didn't feel bad though.
Yeah, I mean the deck certainly felt pretty good. It was a disappointing tournament for me, to be honest. I mean, I ended up 6-3 and finished 36th, so I didn't prize.
Blah, 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 blah.
No, I actually had a round 1 loss to Abzan, and it was kind of a wonky list. It was like kind of a cross between Abzan mid-range and Abzan aggro. Like it had some elements of both. It just got a little flooded out game 3. His sideboard cards definitely, tilted the matchup as well. But anyway, won the next 2 and then lost in round 4 to Jeskai aggro, which just blew me out. So it was 2-2 at that point. Had no chance to top 8. Figured, there's no reason not to stay in.
Yeah.
So, rattled off 4 straight wins. Then got paired against Chris Anderson in round 9, who was playing the Teamer Ascendancy Green Devotion list, which I had not played against with Red White, and it felt close to impossible.
Yeah, it's not a very good matchup, I don't think.
No, it was pretty bad. I did win game 1 off of the old turn 3 Rabble Master, turn 4 Rabble Master, Chain of the Roxer guy, turn 5 Stormbreath Dragon draw.
Yeah, that's a really good draw.
Sometimes you just do that, which is why I think Red White is tier 1 in this format right now.
Rabble Master plus follow up Rabble Master is
removal spell.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
So sweet. Or if you just are playing against control and you're just oh, Rabble Master, and they kill it, and you're like, all right, that's fine. Rebel Master, and they kill that one. And then they play the third one, and they're like, okay, well, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much if it ever lives, then you're probably in a good position to win.
Yes.
But anyway, like I said, it was pretty disappointing. I had played it at FNM the night before, which we had a 6-round FNM at Comic Town, which was
it's not surprising
crazy.
Since there was a 5K in the vicinity, so I'm sure a lot of people that were going to be playing in the 5K were going to be there.
Yeah, so I played the full 6 rounds at FNM, went 5-1, went 6-3 at the 5K, so it was 11-4, over basically equivalent of a GP's worth of rounds.
Yeah.
And definitely lost 3 of the 4 losses were to Hornet Nest.
Yeah, we gotta pack some Hornet Nest tech in the next sideboard.
Yeah. Gotta get some Hornet spray.
Yeah, Red White loses to bees, apparently, so good to note.
Yeah, Brimaz, really bad against Hornet Nest.
It's not like bees, not a fan.
No, Rebel Master really bad against Hornet Nest.
Also not a fan of bees.
Horthing Uppers really bad against Hornet Nest.
Yeah, nope.
It's, yeah. So, yeah, the Green Devotion matchup doesn't feel very good, especially if they have that card.
Yeah.
So, but I do like Red White going forward. I'm going to continue to play it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, barring anything crazy happening with Dragons, I'm probably going to play it at the Invitational at the end of the month.
I mean, that's the weird thing is, so we have the Invitational, which starts on the first day that Dragons of Takir is legal. So, man, I guess Star City Games, didn't necessarily plan this, but gosh, can you imagine how much money they're just going to make out of people needing to pre-order cards?
Oh yeah, maybe they did plan it.
But they only have it every X amount of months, basically, for their seasons. Yeah. So maybe they already had. Maybe they did. I don't know when they plan things as far as that's concerned.
It's pretty hard to line that up, but it did line up.
This definitely is a weird schedule.
Because they shifted the actual set release. So normally without the set release, the set release shifting, there wouldn't be any issue here. We would just still be in a Fate Reforged standard, but now we're speeding things up.
Yeah, I think it actually makes the tournament a lot worse just because you're going to have card availability issues, which, it's unfortunate to have that happen in a tournament like that. You don't want that to be a factor.
Very, very much so.
But,
and it's worrisome because, I mean, there's going to be people that are just be like, oh, yeah, I can just get cards. It's no big deal. It's whatever. And there's going to be some people who are like, I'm not going to play a single Dragons or Takir card because I didn't open any during my pre-release that I need to use for this deck. So it'll be, and I think it's more impactful since it is a large set that's being released. So it could be just as impactful as Cons was. And there are a lot of cards and cons that, make decks.
For sure.
It'll be an interesting thing that we will have to overcome when at the end of this month. So, yay!
I just want to point out that Chris Anderson has taken us all down at the end of tournaments in the last about 2 months or so.
Yeah, what's with that guy?
He knocked me out of top 8 in the second to last round of the PTQ a couple months ago. Oh. And then he knocked you out of top 8 contention or top 16 contention at the 5K?
It wasn't the last round. It was
second to last round.
It would have taken me technically out of. I was X11.
Yeah,
so technically
knocked out top 8 contention. Dave gets knocked out of prizing contention.
Yeah,
man. Thanks, Chris.
Jeez,
it was really sad. Yeah, we had I knew what he was playing because we were pretty close to each other like throughout the day. So like there was a couple rounds where he was sitting next to me or like a couple tables down. So I saw what he was playing. I'm like, man, I really don't want to play against that deck. And then as soon as I saw the pairings in round 9, I'm like, really? So,
Yeah,
oh well.
That's pretty brutal.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
So, Mike, there was a GPT that you played it on Sunday, but do you want to just save that for?
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll save that one.
Let's talk about moderns.
Yeah. So this is going to be an interesting conversation about the Star City Games tournaments because their website's currently down.
Oh, it is. Yeah, they actually had that update.
Correct. This is something that they have notified us of for all day today. But I mean, we'll be able to struggle through it. It's fine. Mainly, we'll kind of hit on the high notes as far as that's concerned. If you do want more information, obviously, Star City Games will be back up and operational when this is posted, and you can always research the decks there. But
the Open is also the top 16 list at least are up on TCG Player right now.
Oh yeah. So that'll be a good place to kind of start there. So the winner was Gerard Fabiano.
Who? I don't know if I've heard of this guy.
Yeah, he just seems very. We can't even make that joke.
Is he new?
No, I know. He's just insane.
He's been on a heater for a while now.
He decides that he's going to play only forests, swamps, and islands in every format.
And Ashioks.
Yeah. So like that.
Mono Ashioks.
That's kind of the funny thing about the results of this tournament is, first of all, it was, I think, the biggest split tournament, 2-day tournament that they've run so far for Modern.
Take that, everyone who's been, all the pros were like, I don't like Modern. Guess what?
Yeah.
The masses want more Modern.
Like, Modern's pretty much solved, right? There's no, like, rogue decks that could even win. You either have to play Twin or...
nice top 8, bro.
Or Junk. Or, Sultai Control is what Fabiano played to great success. It seems that him and Takir are best bros, and he wants to play them in all formats forever. But yeah, this deck, watching this deck get played was pretty sweet, and it looked like he was having a lot of fun with it. I think Creeping Tar Pit's a really awesome card to be playing right now, as well as I think Damnation's pretty awesome to see play. A lot of the Wilt Leaf, Abzan decks and stuff like that, just kind of fooled to a good old Damnation at some point in time. But yeah, he's got a lot of them. Also, Feed the Clan. Man.
Yeah, loves to feed the clans.
The clan, they so hungry.
They're well fed when Fabiano's around. So.
Oh, most certainly.
When the clan gets all excited, like, man, we're really hungry. Oh, here comes Gerard.
He'll feed us. So, taking a look, we do have some other notables here in the top 8. We have Seth Manfield playing Splinter Twin, Jeff Hooglin playing Teamer Moon.
He went undefeated day 1.
Yeah, he had
He's playing Aether Spouts.
He was
playing Boomerang, man.
Yeah, Boomerang. He made the point that, sometimes you can just get people. Sometimes your opponent just, plays a tap land and passes, and you're just like, Boomerang, discard a card.
Well, Boomerang's also really sweet if, so you can, try to, get a land before, you Blood Moon. You know what I mean? Randomly bounce this, and then see if they make a play mistake with it, and just be like, Blood Moon? Just like, oh, no.
Yeah. I think he was definitely hurt by the fact that people knew his list day 2.
Yeah.
Because, day 1, maybe you're not expecting the Blood Moon May deck. And then if people are expecting that, then, okay, maybe you fetch some basic lands. Maybe you know that he has Aether Spouts in his deck, so you don't just,
he actually was bragging about the Aether Spouts blowout, on social media. And the first comment on it was so are you just trying to make sure it doesn't happen again, or what?
Yeah, exactly. So it's definitely it was definitely a cool deck, but sometimes there are decks that basically once it's known, once people can figure out how to beat it, then it's the jig is up,
Yeah. Also, we have no Abzan in the top 8. So that's something to take note of.
You mean the best deck, and there's no reason to play any other deck in the format?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I felt a little bit confused by it as well.
Well, I just don't understand that. I don't get Modern.
I have no idea. Also, we have Todd Anderson showing up playing Team or Twin. So the Tarmogoyf version of Twin kind of coming back and showing up again, which I think is surprising.
I think another interesting deck was Jonathan Sukenik's 4-color control.
Yeah. That was kind of a bit of a talk of the town as well.
Yeah, it was basically a Jeskai control deck.
Had Lingering Souls.
Yeah, splashing black for Lingering Souls flashback as well as Mystical Teachings flashback.
Yeah, that's hot. That's hot. But there was a green-black deck that did show up in top 8, and it was Jund. And there was a lot of Jund kind of running around, at least like what they were showing you, because Reed Duke was playing Jund as well, because there's this card called Thunderball Hellkite. It turns out it's really good at eating Lingering Soul tokens.
It's Hero of the People, Reed Duke.
And we also don't see any blue-green infect in the top 8, but it does show up in top 16,
Yeah, top 16.
as well as Abzan mid-range shows up, having 3 lists show up in the top 16. So the deck's still there,
For sure.
But it was awesome to see Jund. I'm a big fan. Also, feed the clans in the sideboard of that deck as well. So just in case you're wondering, so those clans, they get fed.
So is Gerard's deck not a black-green deck?
I mean, like traditional black-green. The listeners know what I mean.
It's like, all right, it's like
Don't try to involve them.
Leave them out of this.
It's like parents fighting and trying to like ask the kid, like, doesn't he always do this? Huh? Doesn't he always insult mom? Like, whoa.
It's like instead of playing white cards, you get good blue cards.
Can we just point out though, like, if the format is full of Abzan, like, how good is Thragtusk?
Yeah.
Like, Gerard's like playing Thragtusk seems insane. Like, so like sack a creature with Lily? Sure, I have a creature still. You know, a 5/3 so I can block your Siege Rhino and still get a guy? Like, oh man, it seems good.
Yeah, I feel like we should talk about this deck a little bit more because I feel like it was a pretty innovative list.
We haven't returned to it.
Yeah. We haven't seen a Sultai control deck in Modern do well.
No.
I haven't seen one.
Well then, come on in, everybody. It's we're gonna go open the door and join Dave's deck corner.
Oh, I wasn't going to do the full breakdown.
No, we're here.
Oh, okay.
We've arrived.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you said, it does have main deck 2 Thragtusk, which is another card that seems really awesome against Abzan. A little clunky against some other decks, like Splinter Twin, for example, but that's okay.
Yeah, it seems like it gets burned too, though.
Yeah. I don't know, though. It's like if they have the Skullcrack in response. Then
No, I mean, I'm not saying it's always going to get burned, but like anything that gains life could also just be like derivative, like, well, if they have Skullcrack.
Right. But definitely, has main deck discard, obviously. He's running 4 Inquisition of Kozilek and 1 Thoughtseize, as well as 3 Snapcaster Mages, so he has ways to really kind of control the game that way rather than through counterspells. This deck is very counterspell light, though he does run 3 Mana Leaks and 2 Cryptic Commands. Another kind of Fabiano card that nobody else would play is probably 1 Compulsive Research that he was running. Just seemed really out of place, but he was saying it really helped to smooth out his draws.
I mean, you don't think the 2 Ashiok main deck don't seem out of place?
I mean, that's not surprising, I guess.
But I mean,
definitely, it seems odd in a format that is so defined by Abrupt Decay.
Yeah, that's my only issue with the card. Is like it's in theory it should clean up against the Abzan decks, but in all reality, like they are running a bunch of Abrupt Decay, so I don't know. And apparently it was obviously good for him, but I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose he could always clear away the Abrupt Decays with his discard spells, which is another advantage of playing that. Versus,
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't watch too much of the Open, obviously, because we were gone all day on Saturday at the 5K. But definitely saw a feature match when he was playing against Dan Musser on Sunday, and Musser was playing Abzan, and definitely stole a Tarmogoyf with Ashiok, and then ticked it up the next turn, and then hit Siege Rhino. It was just completely disgusting.
Poor Dan too. He had a pretty magical run.
He did.
Started 0-2.
He was 0-2 and then won 10 in a row, and then lost to Gerard.
Like I said, he lost to Gerard and Reed Duke in consecutive rounds.
Oh,
man, it's pretty rough.
I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah, but Yeah, I mean the rest of the deck is what you would expect out of Sultai Control. He's running 2 Taskers main, 4 Tarmogoyfs, 2 Damnations, which is it's pretty cool to see. We haven't really seen
and he
a
has
lot of
another one on the
Damnations.
sideboard.
Yep. Golgari Charm main, which is kind of an interesting choice, though that could be a blowout against certain decks.
Oh yeah. I mean, but speaking of like other decks that could be blowout against, there's definitely a black-white tokens deck in the top 8 that we kind of skimmed over. Yeah. Turns out Golgari Charm is pretty good against that deck.
Yeah. How about Knight of Souls Betrayal in the sideboard?
Yeah, also pretty good against that deck.
Is that good against Lingering Souls?
Yeah, it is. So yeah.
Also pretty good against Twin as well.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man.
But yeah, certainly. I really don't know what to make of this deck. I don't know. Like, we've seen Gerard win with some interesting lists. We'll say.
Are we just going to say the same thing that we said when he played in one with Soulside Control and Standard? Where it's
Standard,
just like, oh yeah, this is just another Gerard Fabiano
It
deck.
kind of is, but I don't know. Like, this deck just has like a lot of powerful cards in it.
Yeah.
So I mean, on raw power, it can get there, and it maybe it definitely feels like it should be good against Twin with the Abrupt Decay's main, as well as the discard and the counterspell. Like, I don't know. Like, it seems like it has a lot of ways to disrupt combo. At the same time, it has a lot of game against the aggressive decks as well, with all the removal. So
Yeah. I mean, this, like Mike has said over and over again, like, there's still so much room in Modern, and people just choose not to actually like look for it. And Gerard clearly has, and it kind of shows you that the format is not as clear-cut as people like to make it out to be. So this was, the biggest open since, Star City Games had changed their format. So Modern, it clearly has a lot of attention to it. So get out there and play what you want to play.
yeah, and just one last word on Gerard here. Like, the 2 opens that he's won recently in the last month or so, he didn't just win them, he just completely dominated the tournament. Like, it wasn't even close. So, I mean, that's super impressive. I mean, you can say what you want about the Open Series or, how it compares to GPs or whatever else, but, I mean, it was really impressive what he's been able to do.
100%. In all honesty, like, he's on a pretty solid run, so... and he's usually pretty good at like putting out articles and stuff like that about what he's doing and where he's at in the format. So he's definitely someone to read up on and read what he puts out, because he clearly knows what he's doing, and truly shows that you can play whatever you want, and if you're passionate behind it and if you put work into it, you can get results. You don't have to just play the deck that you think everyone should just play, but you can play something you want to. So, anything else anyone wants to talk about as far as the Modern Open is concerned?
It was a Grixis Delver list at top 16.
Oh my god! I'm honestly, and I'm actually, that makes me happy too. Like, I'm just glad to see. I was really excited to see the numbers come back from it, and to see the amount of people that traveled for it, see the coverage numbers, and see some sweet decks. Like, it just makes me happy for the format, because there's been a lot of doom and gloom since the Pro Tour. And again, you have pros who, and they cannot like the format. That's fine. I can understand that. But at the same time, like, it's interesting to me because they don't get to play like high-level Legacy that often. But I have a strong feeling that they would be saying very similar things if they had like a Legacy Pro Tour. They'd be, the complaints about Brainstorm coming back and how every deck is derivative. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like any Eternal format like this, you're going to find a way to knock it down. So it's good to see players still embrace it, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a good note to end on. We, of course, have a couple IQs that happen. We have the Standard IQ being won by Andrew Skorik, playing Red White Aggro. And Kevin Jones, Zach Jesse, and Andrew Boswell also show up in the top 8. So I can only assume that Boswell was playing Abzan at this point. I'm going to see if I can...
He was. Yeah. What do you think Kevin Jones was playing? Just take one guess. It's the only deck he ever plays.
Oh,
Standard.
yeah, Jeskai tokens? No?
Yeah, well, Jeskai aggro.
Yeah,
Jeskai, yeah, sure.
Yep.
I mean, I'll be very honest. I don't think a lot of the decks here are actually that interesting.
No,
but
maybe not.
I will say it's so. Dave and I had this conversation at least a little bit, where he was suggesting like that my tokens deck was unplayable, which. No.
I didn't say unplayable.
No. It wasn't good right now, and honestly, that may come and go. I don't thoroughly disagree with that. But the one thing I actually do think is that the shifts between the decks are actually so minor at this point that I still think you could play whatever you want. Like, look at the way the control decks are working now. Like, you see Blue-Black doing well now because Abzan control came in, and then so when you had Abzan control versus Ulti control, well, then the deck that has the better counterspells now has the best chance. So you see a metagame shift in the 3 control decks that are currently sitting in the format, which actually doesn't really affect how any of the other decks play against them. So it's sort of interesting to see how like that directs a metagame shift, but honestly, you could still play the deck that you wanted. So this format just still feels like it feels narrow and wide open at the same time. So it's sort of interesting. And like you see, I was mentioning to you, Dave, like Abzan aggro still making a bunch of appearances here. Just and by all rights, that deck shouldn't be very good with as many control decks are running around. Like, you can't put any of these decks. Blue-White Heroic makes the top 4 again, which that deck's just terrible. So I don't know. I don't know anymore. I'm going to play what I want, and I'm going to put blinders on, and that's going to be me.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, well, also what I said was, I feel like right now, Jeskai tokens isn't well positioned. I feel like you could do okay with it. It'd be tough to win a tournament with it, but give it a couple weeks, it might be people might stop playing BioBlade for some reason, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, I'll just go nuts with the Jeskai Ascendancy again.
Yeah. No, in my mind, I remember you saying something like, "You can't win." I may have just been hearing you poorly.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Pretty
sure that's probably a miscommunication of some persuasion.
I mean, it's how I motivate myself. I just remember everyone else being just
like a baby, like a small child.
But everyone's a pile of garbage to me, and that way I always feel like when I win, I can just shove it back in their face.
Oh, okay. That's probably not a very positive way to live your life.
It's not warranted at all. It's probably unhealthy.
It might be. You might want to see someone about that. I don't know. I can tell.
Why? When they told me there's something wrong with me, I would just be like, "There's something wrong with you." Like, I wouldn't be able to do it. And I'd be like, "No, I'm not sick. Take that."
And just see. You might need to be like.
Shut up.
Okay, let's move on before anyone else gets any more angry.
Angrier.
More angriest.
More. Stop it! You're poking the bear.
I'm gonna walk off set.
So let's talk about Legacy. Jack Kitchen was playing Painted Stone, and he won the whole thing. And this has inspired me to potentially look at this list, likely actually look at this list to play at the Invitational. I forgot that this deck exists because I don't follow Legacy very often, and it is something that I am interested in honesty, because it does provide access to free wins, and Jund might not be that good in the format. So I don't want to go somewhere, travel far distances just to not give myself a shot at something. So
you know what you could play?
What could I play?
Well, I know you're not going to play it, but you could play a deck that you've had some experience with. Blue-Green Infect.
I could, in theory, yes. The issue is that we do not have infinite tropical islands. We ran out of those super quick. Turns out
Traps would be easier. I think it's the 20 copies of Force of Will that we're going to need to have.
Okay, that's correct.
That might be a little difficult to achieve.
No, and that honestly is another consideration for what I thought. Again, in fact, is something that I enjoy playing, but card availability is just one of those things. Us sitting here at this table don't have diverse Legacy selections. We just know people that do. So I wanted to go with something that wasn't going to tax other people that much, and something that I could feasibly find.
Understandable.
So if any of you have Imperial recruiters,
please,
is looking to borrow,
let me know.
Collateral probably could be provided.
Potentially.
Like a car.
I mean, to be fair, with the judge foiling of that card, they're still expensive, but they're not $300 a piece like they used to be. So
no. Do you want to talk about all the decks we're picking for Legacy, or are we just gonna?
I mean, we got
skim over this.
We got time
I think
for that.
I think we got time to get there. Like
Okay.
could potentially still change even depending on what cards become available or whatever. So
Yeah, what if they print something like completely broken in Dragons, and then it's just like, oh,
that's not what I meant. But
Treasure Cruise Part 2.
oh god, so Treasure Cruise in this timeline is 4 cards? I don't understand.
It only costs 7.
not to like jump back, but I am kind of sad there like aren't going to be any more Delve cards, even though it's probably a good thing.
Yeah, I feel like the design space could have still gone a little bit further there, but yeah, like you saw things like Soul Flare, which was sort of like a unique take on it, but beyond that, like all they did was make a couple broken cards.
That's true. That's 100% true.
Wizards does a really good job designing this game, but whenever it comes to cost reduction mechanics, man, they always just go off the deep end somehow. Just be like, well, we'll balance it this time. Oh, we messed up again.
I even felt like they were like super conservative with Treasure Cruise too, because when I first looked at that, I was like, oh yeah, that's. I mean, I thought like maybe in like Legacy it'd be like pretty good, but it's like looking at it, it's standard. I mean, it's still in standard. It's fine.
Yeah,
but yeah, I guess I maybe underestimated how easy it was to fill up your graveyard. I think a lot of people did, actually.
I think so too. So, Mike, we like we said earlier, we do have GP Cleveland coming up, not this week, but next week, and it is a limited GP. And I'm not that good at limited, as time has told us again and again. I can win a draft every once in a while, but sealed has not been my strong suit. And I'm sure there's many of our listeners out there that kind of feel the same way. What little bits of wisdom can you instill upon us about this format, or what would you like to share with us about this sealed format or limited format in general?
I mean, I don't want to pretend like I'm some expert who's done a ton of like Moto sealed pools or anything like that, but I think out of any of us that we interact with, even on like the Comic Town team, maybe one person I can think of who likes it more than I do, but I really like sealed. Like, I actually thoroughly enjoy sealed. Most of you guys like Dave, you guys tend to cringe when it's like oh yeah, we got a chance to play sealed, and you guys are like,
I like opening packs. Like, I like that part.
I don't like actively dislike it. I would just prefer to play constructed. So
I don't know. There's something about the deck building in sealed that makes me like really happy. And then, like, I don't know, I really enjoy, like, getting to tinker around with it. And this format, I really think, is really, like, the Khan's Favorite Forge format, I think is really skill-intensive because your mana bases are crazy. And, I mean, yeah, there's always those outlier pools where you can just open something insanely busted and, the deck sort of, as it, builds itself, so to speak. But I think that's actually a lot less common here. And I've seen a lot more people having full-on, like, second decks to board into after like the first round, which is if you've never done that, it's pretty common, the idea that maybe you misbuilt, maybe your other colors are stronger. Well, in this case, I think you have a case where you actually have so many different ways to go about it, and Morph opens up your mana base so much because you can say, okay, well, if this is my splash color, then but I can cast it as a Morph, then I don't even need to hit the color. So I played in the GPT this weekend, which shout out to Comic Town for randomly having a sealed GPT for Cleveland. That was awesome practice. Also got some sweet value. Definitely opened up 2 Flooded Strands and a Monastery Mentor and had to pass them.
Awkward.
Luckily, when I passed them, I received a foil Sorin in return.
Value.
So, I ended up playing 4-color, though. I ended up playing Abzan Splash Red, because I had a Bloodstained Mire, and then, I didn't have a lot of
value?
Value. I didn't have a lot of on-color fixing, but I had some, a Bloodscale Caves, or whatever it is, the red-black one, and then a Rugged Highlands, the red-green one, and then a Bloodstained Mire to play a Mountain. So, I was playing a pretty good deck with, I had a splash for Pyrotechnics, and a splash for Atarka, which I struggled with that one for a long time, because I didn't know how much of a bomb those dragons. Some of them are obviously much better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dramoka's insane.
Yep. Kolaghan is good.
Kolaghan's very good, but these are the 5-cost dragons.
Yeah.
I've had multiple times in this format where I've had Ojutu or whatever it is. Ojutai, thank you. And it just gets bounced, which there's a lot of bounce spells in this format where you're just like, oh, this is gross. So Atarka was sort of tricky, but proved its worth pretty consistently. So I think it's just. You're asking if I can impart skills onto people. The thing I would suggest is that your 3-color deck, or even your 4-color deck, which I think is actually really easy to have in this format, isn't actually going to be traditional, like you're not going to play a shard for real, like a wedge. You're going to play 2 colors
And splash.
and splash, and you have to follow your mana on it. Like, you sort of have to ignore some powerful cards sometimes to be able to do this. And I think that's the one thing I've seen that most people struggle with, where they'll show me a deck when they're done and be like, oh, well, I had all these cards. And like, well, yeah, that looks insane, but like I had a Palace Siege in my deck, like in my pool, and Palace Siege in like if you're playing against like the mid range mirror is really good. And I saw a lot of people, like, I talked to them, like, oh, well, why aren't you playing the Palace Siege? It's like, well, because I couldn't fit enough black sources in the deck. And, of course, I had Swamp set to the side, and when I played in a matchup where I needed it, like, I boarded out all the red stuff, put in more Swamps, and then won a couple games of Palace Siege. But I think you have to assess, like, so many of the cards in Cons and Fate are powerful. As you already said, as you said, Limited Resources said, too, that you have to sacrifice playing them, though, to be able to cast some number of them. You know what I mean?
And I think a lot of that is like a sealed thing, because I feel like draft is different. Draft, you want to be almost 2-color, which I can see in sealed, though, how you're like, well, you're going to have to flex a little bit more. You're going to have to spread out potentially, just because you might run out of playables and not have enough for a good 2-color deck. But
well, I also think that sealed in this format, it definitely holds true that sealed is generally a little bit slower. There was one really good, like, aggressive Warriors deck, and I lost to that deck round 1. It was my only loss until we got to the top 8. But beyond that, most of those decks don't exist. You know, it's based around the 3-drop heavily, around the morph.
Right.
So if you have ways to
we apologize for the aircraft lifting off.
My laptop apparently has the worst processor in the world.
It's just really hot, man.
I have literally one tab open, and that's the only thing open on it.
It's too hot.
And it's just too much for it to do. Or it's really, really turned on with the idea of sealed.
Yeah.
So,
It's really perked up.
but so I think you have to be very careful with your choices, and I think like the removal like is premium still in this format. And you just have to look how you're going to use it. Like, I personally really enjoy the Tempo decks, because I think Tempo is very, very good in this format. I think Jeskai is very good in the format. Will of the Naga, Whisk Away, things that just buy you time. But like I said, I couldn't play blue, despite wanting to. So I think you do still need to be able to recognize what are powerful cards overall. I guess just you have to really read your mana is what I think the most important thing in this format is just what fixing do you have, how does it fit into your card pool, as opposed to what cards do you want to play, how does my mana support them? Right. Because if you build that way, I think you're going to have clunky decks.
Yeah, you'll see that even with I've seen like Numat the Nummy do sealed, and you'll see that something he does is he sorts out his rares. And see where those lie, and then he'll look at his mana next, and he'll be like, how's my fixing look? And that influences a lot of what he builds, and you'll see him have really powerful cards. Like, he had a pretty recent sealed where he opened the Sarkhan, but his other red was just terrible, and didn't have the fixing for it, so he went a different direction with it, which sometimes you do have to do in sealed just due to the nature of the format, the constraints it naturally puts on you.
But I know a lot of people would say, like, oh, but it's Planeswalker. They're really good. And they are. Trust me. Sorin was incredible for me. Like, I know that's one of the only times I've ever actually had a Walker, and it's like there are multiple games where it's just like, okay, this is a close game. Oh, Sorin, okay, not even close.
Never mind, LOL.
But at the same time, like, had my teamer colors been super strong, then, like, you've got to have that same capacity to be like, okay, I'm not going to do this. So I have 2 buys at GP Cleveland. So I know that, like, if I win my first round, that I have a chance to be facing some pretty stiff competition immediately. So I'm hoping to be able to take this sort of into that. I also got to draft in the top 8.
Yeah, tell us how your draft went.
Time draft is so sweet. If you've never time draft, win yourself into a position to do it. I've only ever done it in PTQ top 8, and then like now in this format. Dave, you've done this a number of times.
Yep.
Pro Tour's all time draft. It's so much better, right? Like, it's just so much better.
Yeah, it definitely requires a little bit of practice, because if you haven't done it, it can be a little stressful. And I don't know, like when we casually draft, like usually you're like, you're looking at your deck in between and stuff like that. You can't look at your deck while you're drafting. You can only look at it in between packs. So that's a big change that a lot of people maybe aren't used to.
Right.
And so that's the biggest thing. You have to actually like memorize what you picked.
It's also nice though because you also don't get that sort of like that one guy who was like, "Sorry guys, I don't know any of the cards," and then you have the train behind them, and you're like, it's like make decisions. You know what I mean? It's what punishes. We had one guy at the table who it was his first top 8 like that. He had never done a draft like that, and he did freak out. He got a little straight. As the judge is like, "Okay, you have 5 seconds," and he's like, "I don't know." Like it's like, all right, relax. The next time you do it, it'll be awesome. But I first picked a Culligan.
That seems like a good first pick.
But I passed the Pyrotechnics.
Ooh, so you put the person next to you potentially into red.
The pack was actually insane because I had Pyrotechnics, a Goblin Heel Cutter, and a Culligan.
That's really awkward.
But nothing else really like high quality. Like this is the kind of pack where if I had seen like the Avon, the 2/2 flyer that can bounce a guy,
Avon Surveyor.
Like I may have actually taken that over anything else. As good as Culligan is, because what I did and I am the guy to the left of me, which is actually a friend. The guy to the left of me opened a Brutal Horde Chief, and then I passed him a Pyrotechnics. So then, like, we were in this awkward position where I didn't pass him much else in red the rest of that pack. I ended up with double Mardu Scout and like a Douse and Gloom, and like actually had a pretty solid deck going. But then we got to pack 2. First picked a Butcher of the Horde. So I was like, yeah, okay, we just start doing this, and then didn't see much fixing that pack, but was getting past like crazy white. So like I had double Mardu Horde Chief, the 2/3 that makes a 1, which is just crazy, and a bunch of the Skull Captains, the 2/1s, Skull Chieftain, is that what it is? I don't know. Sorry if I'm butchering names, but the 2/1 that makes him discard a guy with the raid.
Mardu Skull Hunter.
Skull Hunter, that's it. So like that deck came together, and my red sort of got pushed to the back, and then we had this weird thing pack 3 where like a Zergo went all the way around the table to me. Like I got past me with like it was like 7 cards still left in the pack. And I was like, or no, how long had it been 8? Yeah, it would have been 7 cards still in the pack. So like I was like, what? I was like, okay, and everyone was talking about, you see that Zergo going around? So hilariously, like the Zergo was in the same pack as like I think like a foil Crackling Doom, which is what the guy to the left of me took.
Oh.
So it was just like it was a really crazy like draft that way. So him and I both had really good Mardu decks. His was more base red black, and mine was more white black with a splash of red. And like proceeded to crush my opponent round 1, and then round 2 have like really awkward mulligans and flood a bunch. Like I flooded really hard game 1, and it only showed my opponent the bombs. So like he saw Butcher, Culligan, and like Zergo. So then he boarded in a bunch of disdainful strokes against me, and I had a slow draw again, even though I had a really aggressive deck and just got blown out by it. I'm like, I should be punishing you for having this in your hand, and I just can't do it. So
that's unfortunate.
I ended up taking 3rd or 4th, don't know which. But it was a good run. But man, I just love drafting like that. That's the dream for Cleveland, is just get to the point where I get to just free roll a couple drafts. So.
Well, I mean, free roll. I mean, it's gonna be. Have you already pre-registered?
I have not yet, actually.
Yeah, so $60. I don't know. I don't know how much free roll that is.
All I hear right now is, "Oh, yeah, we're ready."
No, but I think it's good advice.
No, it's not free roll, but I mean, whatever.
Yeah. Was there any consideration to maybe just taking Pyrotechnics and keeping a little bit more open?
So I think at that point, if I'm going to take one of those cards, I think I want the most objectively powerful one, right? And I think red is going to be generally contested for Favorite Forge, because the red cards in Favorite Forged are like really good, and then the red cards in Cons are not nearly as good.
No.
So I feel like I'm going to be fight. Like I feel like at the end of the day, I could, if I'm passing Pyrotechnics but I'm taking Culligan, then I knew I could draft black cards and then splash the Culligan if need be as a bomb. Whereas if I take the Pyrotechnics, then I feel like I'd have a red deck that would probably end up being diluted if I could have taken the Pyrotechnics and then seen the signal moved out of it, but then I'm wasting a first pick on a card that I think I still would have played.
Yeah.
And that's what ended up happening, is where it was like I had red was essentially my bombs, and that was it. And the deck worked out really well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that makes sense. And again, like we already said, that Favorite Forge is just kind of a
it's really swingy. Like
pick a rare, and then you just do that.
But Favorite Forge is overall just like, and I think I don't remember which article I read this in last week, but talked about this idea of how Favorite Forge packs are just stronger. Like the commons are better than most of the cons, beyond like the con morphs, like Abzan guides and that sort of thing. Like you just overall the cards are just like stronger. So it's just sort of in draft, especially like you need to make your Fate Reforged pack count, and then sort of fill in the deck with cons. Because if you come out of Fate Reforged with a pretty weak a weak set of cards, then cons is not going to help the overall power level of your deck. More than likely.
Right. Well, I think that's some awesome information that people can take to GP Cleveland. I still don't know if I'm going to go or not. It's kind of up in the air. It's rough to go to a GP and then in another week go to another invitational and just be gone for a long time. So I know I have the invitational trip coming up, and I don't know if I just want to make it to both or not. But I know it would probably be a pretty cheap tournament overall, providing I can borrow a floor to sleep on, potentially. Maybe a floor belonging to a relative of one of my good friends. So we'll have to see about that one.
David, that's your family was from Boston.
That's correct.
Oh well, I don't know. It seems like you're out of luck. I don't know what to tell you.
All right. Well, I mean, whatever. That's fine. But I think that is going to be everything for this week. So let's go ahead and do some wrap up here. The events that you can kind of keep your eye on. Looks like there's GP Miami, which is run by Star City Games. So there isn't going to be any opens this weekend, but it is standard. So you can definitely take a look at it. It's going to be a big standard event. Any Star City Games tournament is going to be huge.
I had the little postcard, I had an order come in last week from Star City, and they had the postcard, and I couldn't I just threw it away today. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I kept looking at it. I was like, man, I want to go. It looks so cool. I want.
No.
Oh.
No.
No, I'm not going. But
and then so this is going to be the competition of the two powerhouses in U.S. Magic, because we also have GP Liverpool hosted by Channel Fireball and I believe probably Cascade Games maybe.